Hi, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Anime Podcasters, episode 110. A very special episode because today we will be discussing Kids on the Slope. Hotshot was supposed to join us with our special guest today, Morgan, but he's not feeling well. So unfortunately, we're going to be switching it up, and Morgan will be coming back a second time so we can discuss a special topic with him and Hotshot that we have planned. But for today, we have my very good friend, Morgan, that I met at Concordia in the electroacoustic program. I'm very happy to have you here. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. Doing absolutely great. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, this has been a long time. We've been thinking about doing this episode together. I've been trying to get Morgan on. I'm just very happy to have you on. What are we discussing exactly today, Morgan? And please tell us about yourself, your experience with anime, and then we'll kick things off.
All right. Well, awesome, man. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about Kids on the Slope, which is an anime from a director that I personally really love, Shinichirō Watanabe. And that's actually a big part of how how I became a big anime fan, because I wasn't necessarily born a weeb, not like Jaian. I'm sure you were born and able to do Rasengans, day one, but I wasn't like that. I wasn't born with the whiskers, and I didn't learn to walk by Naruto running, as many of you have, I'm sure. No. So basically, I grew up and I was a fan of anime as much as the next guy. One Christmas, my parents got me a Dragon Ball game and Budokai 2, the least popular one, but I still love it. Someone has to. And
It's a good one.
yeah. And the music is great in that one. But anyways, so so I was a big fan. As a kid, I liked the violence of it because I was a kid, and I became an edgy teenager, and then I liked, the edgier animes and mangas, your berserks and your dark fantasy and some stuff that probably kids, the kind of stuff my parents weren't super big fans of personally, but they never loved it. I remember as a child, my earliest anime memory was watching Dragon Ball, and my mother walks in and it's like this scene where General Tao kills someone by sticking his tongue in their ear. And my mom was like, "So what the fuck is this? Like, you're like 8, like what the hell, good
Right.
stuff." But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan. Like, I liked anime, and for me it was like cartoons or whatever. Like, I enjoyed it, but it's really when I loved anime was Cowboy Bebop, Shinichirō Watanabe. So I watched Cowboy Bebop, and then I was like, shit, like, is there more stuff like this? So then I found out about the director Watanabe, and then I checked out his other stuff,
Right.
Samurai Champloo and Kids on the Slope. So that's kind of how we get to here. But I own pretty much everything he's done on Blu-ray and stuff, and I'm a big fan. So I'm very happy to talk about this today. But yeah.
Yes, this 2012 anime produced by MAPPA and Tezuka Production, and I'm very excited. This is an anime that Morgan and his roommate introduced to me, and then I came over and watched a bunch of episodes with you guys.
Yeah.
I feel like I watched the first 8 with you guys, and then we took like a 4-month long break, and I was like, you know what? We still haven't finished Kids on the Slope.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, come over, dude. And then we binged the last 4 episodes together, and a very beautiful series that follows the stories of these of this trio. We talk a lot about Watanabe forming trios and his characters.
Yeah.
The music in here is great. I mean, there's so many great jumping spots. Let's just start with your initial reactions, your first impressions on this series.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, when I watched it, it was a period where I was watching a lot of kind of music films and music series and stuff because, I love music naturally,
Yes.
studying it and making it, of course. But eventually I was kind of thinking, watching all of these movies and TV shows, I thought there's got to be some good music animes out there. So I went through all the lists, I went on Mal and all that. I saw like Your Lie in April and all of those shows and stuff. And I feel like it's a big trend in those shows that they're treated the same way. Like, anime does what anime does, right? Where they'll take any topic, be it music or fighting, and they turn it into the sort of shonen style, right? Like,
Yeah.
Your Lie in April, to me, it's like watching a Dragon Ball or a Naruto. Like, you get the character reactions, except instead
Right.
of fight scenes, it's like music, and so
Yeah, yeah.
I was a bit disappointed in that. There's a lot of drama and stuff that in Your Lie in April, but I kind of wanted something that was a bit more focused on the music itself, where I could listen to the music and actually feel the performances. And that's the thing that I think I carried that carried with me the most in Kids on the Slope, is that you really feel like you're watching the characters actually perform the music. And a lot of that has to do with the animation and the compositions, because the compositions are a lot of jazz classics. You get Moaning from Art Blakey, you get My Favorite Things,
My
which
favorite things. Yes.
amazing, yeah.
That track, bro. I
So
love
great.
that song so much.
Oh yeah, and that's a song, like the original was for made for like Sound of Music, the musical forever ago, and the version that they play is it's inspired by John Coltrane, right? Who did a jazz version of it, which became like a jazz staple, like an absolute classic. And what I like about this anime is that Yoko Kanno, who does the music for Bebop, right? She works on this as well, and
Yes.
she didn't like. There's some a bit of original music here and there, sure, but a lot of what makes it cool is it goes with the spirit of jazz, which is taking classic pieces. We've heard them, like if you listen to jazz, you've heard them probably a lot already, but she rearranges them and gives it life and performance, and it really shows her talent, not as a composer necessarily, but more as a kind of like rearranging and performance and kind of directing musicians and stuff like that. So that's really great. If you're a fan of jazz, or if you're not a fan of jazz at all, I know some people that got into jazz thanks to Kids on the Slope. So it's a great show regardless. Like, you'll remember those tracks. They're on Spotify. You can check all of them out. Like, so it's a great anime for that, and that's what stuck with me, the performances of the music personally. So
Oh man, they have like fantastic performances when their band forms, but it really
Mm.
starts out and correct me here, please, because I'm probably gonna butcher the name. The main protagonist, Kaoru,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
is that correct?
Kaoru, right?
Yeah, Kaoru. When he moves to the city and then he gets into I guess gets into it with Centauru, and then there's Ritsuko. Those
Yeah.
three, like the bond that they form, and when they start making music together, they go to Ritsuko as what was it, like it was a record store that her
Yeah,
dad owned,
yeah,
and
yeah.
in the
So
basement there was the instruments and everything. That great. I love that when that whole arc was starting to form.
yeah, that's absolutely, like, yeah, for because we didn't really mention like necessarily the premise of it, but yeah, Kids on the Slope that's what it's about, right? It's about those three characters, and what's interesting is that Kaoru and Zendaro, and I'll also probably butcher the names, but they kind of they're not friends at the beginning, because like Kaoru is new, and he's very kind of not fidgety, but just sort of he tries to keep to himself. He doesn't want any drama. He just wants to have like do normal stuff and just
Yeah, I
no
remember him being like
nonsense.
very
He's stiff. He's
socially
stiff
awkward.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
He's stiff actually. Yeah. That's a lot of it, especially at the beginning. But basically, like, it's funny because he's the classic, very like he's stiff, sure, but it's also like when he walks up the slope, because that's what Kids on the Slope is about. He's every day he walks on the slope, and he's going to school and he's coming back, and it's a bit depressing. And these are weird times too, because I can't remember the era, but it's during it's Japan when they're being occupied, right? So
1966,
yeah.
according to the wiki.
So what happens is there's a lot of drama there in the show too, where the setting is very gray. It's not super. It's not super lively and fun,
Right.
and that's a big part of the show too. And there are a couple nods to that there later in the show, when you see the Americans and they're complaining about, like, black jazz and white jazz and all that. But it's the kind of thing where, yeah, the setting is very gray. It's a bit sad. Like, he kind of talks about how like going up and down the slope, like, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's a bit
Yeah.
depressing. And then he meets this crazy kid who's a bit of a delinquent, has a bad reputation, is getting into fights all the time. And basically, like, he wants nothing to do with him, right? He's like, no,
Leave me alone.
leave me alone, yeah, and it's great, because then you get like Ritsuko, right, who's really the bridge between them. Like she's even though he wants nothing to do with him, he is still the only one who actually even interacts with him, even talks to him. So Ritsuko kind of sees that and is like, fuck it, this might be the only chance I can give this guy, I can get this guy an actual friend, you know? So it's interesting. There's a lot of awkward moments, a lot of, you know, especially between Ritsuko and Kaoru, like, you know, he kind of, you know, wants to be with her, whatever. Like, he's doing this to be with her, kind of, and she's like so busy trying to make them friends that she doesn't even see him as like a romantic interest or whatever. So it's a lot of stuff where you cringe, but not in a way where you're like, oh, this is cringy writing, more in like you feel embarrassed for Kaoru and you just kind of want to leave the room. But I love that. I love watching shows that have that make me feel like I don't want to be there and I want to go home.
No, for sure. Like for me, when I saw the bond between Ritsuko and Kaoru start to form, obviously there was like this quasi romantic thing that becomes very romantic throughout the anime. Correct me if I'm wrong. They end up together at the end, right?
Well,
Pretty sure.
not quite though, right? And
Not
the ending,
quite.
I love the ending, but I love like Watanabe, like his final episodes, they're just the best. Like me and my roommate, right? And we talked about earlier, like we talk about just binging just the final episodes of all of his shows because they're beautiful. If you remember Bebop, like, oh my god, you know.
You just want to get heartbroken multiple times and then
So
just
good.
feel happy at some.
Yeah.
There's no. Sorry, I was reading out the wiki. Apparently, in the manga, they end up together.
Yeah, so well, this is the thing though, is the manga, like the anime does not adapt the entire manga, right? That's something that's true. But actually, because I've read the manga because I was curious, you know, what are we missing? What's going on here? And I think the anime does really well for itself in the 12 episodes it does, because I love the
Right.
ending. And you know, the ending is done in two parts where you kind of get the first half where it's the ending of the show, like the timeline that we've
and
been
then
watching.
the time lapse.
Yeah, and it's really awkward. Like, they don't end super great, you know. It ends really weird. Like, you know, Kaoru's a bit weird with Ritsuko, you know, and it's a really strange kind of ending. But then when you get the time jump, it's something where all of the characters have lived their own lives, and you kind of see them reunite, and just for one moment, and it's great and wonderful because there's not a lot of actual talking, not a lot of actual sort of they don't talk about the old times or anything, because we saw the old times and they were great, you know, they were the other 11 episodes, and it's really just, it really captures that feeling of just like they see each other again, they're performing music, you know, and then it ends, and for me that's perfect, you know. I don't know how to
But it
explain
ends with that
but
song they always play together. I remember
Moaning.
Shinichirō going to the
Yeah.
church, and then he gets on the, I'm pretty sure it's an organ, and then he starts playing the melody, and then Sentaro comes down and he's like, oh, let me just hop on the drums, and then I'm just like, okay, sure, let's pick up where we left off, right?
Yeah, it's so funny when you see Sentaro just kind of like he I like it because he's working at the church, right? But what I find funny is he hears the organ playing, then he comes into the church, and you see that he actually had a drum set in the church the whole time. He just takes off the oh man,
The carpet, the sheet.
the sheet. Yeah, he just takes off a sheet, and I'm like, dude, the first time I've seen like a drum set readily like available in the church, you know, for some jazz.
My guy still jams.
So
you know?
funny. Yeah, of course. So funny though. Yeah, and they're playing Moaning, the first song they play together. And the song,
Moaning, yes.
it's so good. But yeah, for me, like, the finale is very simple. It's just it's well executed. It's nice to look at, and it just feels right. So I'm a
want
big
to
fan of
ask
that.
you
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you your general thoughts on Sentaro as a character, because we've seen troublemakers throughout anime a lot,
God.
but he has a very lovable side to it, and he becomes a great sidekick to Kaoru. And I'm pretty sure he gets involved with like he gets a crush on someone throughout the anime.
Oh my god, yeah.
It kind of goes all over the place. He's kind of like quirky, but like cool. I don't know. There's a lot of layers to this specific character. So what are your general thoughts on him?
Yeah, well, for me, Sentaro is really like he's and for many people I know that I've talked to, like, he's the standout character of the show for sure. Like, he drives the show, honestly. Like, Like, you know,
Oh, for sure, standout
there's a
character,
lot
yeah.
of animes with a Kaoru and a Ritsuko, you know, but there's not a lot of them with a Sentaro the way that he is, because, you know, he is portrayed as like the very soft, gentle giant kind of
Gentle giant is a
delinquent,
great
you
way to
know?
put it. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
because he's like, he has a heart of gold. Everyone's like, oh,
Very much so.
he's such a delinquent. Oh, you know, like, don't get involved with that guy. You know, he's so sketchy. And it's like, dude, like, he's like the nicest guy. He's not good at school. In fact, he's terrible at school. And he does get into fights, but you know, it's always defending his friends and helping people out, and very rarely that he does you know, there's a couple moments he does things that are not great. A lot of it deals with the jealousy and all that, but he's still probably honestly the nicest character outside of like Ritsuko in the show, because he has less sketchy moments than Gao does. That's for sure.
No, for sure. I want to actually bring this up real quick. I don't know. Are you a fan of Yu Yu Hakusho at all, or are you familiar with
Yeah.
that
Well,
series?
oh my god. So here's the thing. Like, my roommate, see Thomas, like,
Yeah.
he
Shout out Thomas. You're gonna come on the podcast eventually. I know you're listening to this,
Oh.
Thomas. Anyways, go on.
Right. So he's a huge fan, right? Huge Yu Yu Hakusho fan. And I actually really like it as well. But I had read it years ago, like as a teenager or maybe even younger.
So
I
hear me out.
I
Hear me out, though, real
struggle,
quick.
you know. Yeah, go ahead.
Kuwabara
Yeah.
is basically Centauro is basically Kuwabara, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I see it. I can see
There's
it.
a similar. I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I see
Yeah.
similarities there.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that a bit, because yeah, he is like the delinquent, but like he's like a
Lovable
delinquent in
idiot.
aesthetic, but really, like, come on, like, he's just a chill dude, you know. Don't make too much of it, but I think, but you know, that I like that, and I like Sentaro is kind of, he's pretty breakout there. But what I like about him too is a lot of times when you watch an anime and you know you have like the big tall delinquent guy who fights people, he doesn't have a very, usually they don't have a very human side. Usually it's like they're a bit dumb and they're fun and all that, but because they're not the main character, usually like the main character is like the romantic hero. But what I liked about Sentaro is, yeah, he's a delinquent. Yeah, he's a bit stupid, and he's funny. He's funny too. But he also, like, he has his own romantic quest, because there's in the gang, like, yeah, there's the three main characters. But when you watch the opening and all that, like, there's two other characters that are there that are very important, like the two main secondary characters, and I always forget her name, so I'm not gonna bother. But the girl that Sentaro is interested in, and she kind of joins the gang, but she joins the gang, you know, like, and hangs out with them, and he gets a big crush on her. And you know, Ritsuko's kind of into Sentaro, so get a weird like triangle that becomes like a square with Kaoru, and it's a bit of a mess. But what's interesting is, like, she kind of becomes bigger in the group when she sees, and I don't know if you remember him, but Brother Jun.
Brother June is my favorite character. We will
Yeah.
have a Brother June segment.
Yeah.
Is this it? Because get ready, dude. This
Right.
guy breathes cool, calm, collectedness. This guy ends up with the
Oh,
girl.
yeah.
This guy is the guy you're jealous of. You know, this guy is the guy that your girlfriend tells you not to worry about. But you, in all seriousness, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
that's
he's
literally
like,
that's literally the case.
yeah, no, exactly. And
Right.
he's just like, he's seen as this like role model by Sentaro.
Yeah.
And he's a senior, and he's just he starts at the start of the anime with this like really cool image, but he goes downhill, you know.
Oh,
People
yeah.
don't recognize him after. What happens to him again exactly? I feel like he just
horrible.
kind of loses himself a little bit, and then he
Yeah.
comes back and he's got like longer hair, and he's got like a facial hair now, and you can see
Yeah.
that he's not as well off as he was before. But then you know, and he's always like, "You don't want to be with me," because, you know, and then everyone's like, "But that's exactly why I want to be with you, because you're telling me," you know what I mean?
Yeah,
This guy, bro.
Oh, this guy.
This character. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
About time we bring up Brother June on this podcast. Seriously,
Brother June, yeah.
He plays the trumpet like a beast. Like his
Oh,
solos
yeah.
when they were in the bar. Oh man, dude, what are your thoughts on this guy?
So yeah, no, Brother June, yeah. So Brother June's very interesting, because in the first part of the show, right, he is the perfect guy, like the role model for everyone, like, and Sentaro
so
is
much
like
so.
his hype man, right? He's always like, "Oh, that's Brother
Oh my God,
June.
he's like, Brother
He's
June."
the
Yeah,
best,
and like a
he's
cheerleader.
fucking amazing."
Almost.
Yeah. And every time
Yeah.
they come, like, and even the record store owner, Ritsuko's father, he's like, he comes down to play the upright bass, right? And then they're like, "Yo, they're like, oh, how come you're not gonna watch the store? And he's like, yo, we don't get Brother June that often. Like I'm jamming, I don't care, you know. And like everyone's just
Yeah, he's a
hyping
hot
this
commodity.
guy, you know. Everyone's just
Yeah.
hyping this guy, and when you see him, you're like, like you're like, he's hot. Okay, he's playing that trumpet so good. And the moment that really makes him like he becomes the coolest guy, you know, ever is when they're in
The train scene.
is
The train scene.
no. Well, yeah, I was talking about the bar when they're at the bar, because a big part of the show at the beginning is they're all practicing. Sentaro and Kaoru have some drama, and they duke it out through music, you know, and that's really fun. Again, you know,
I mean, that's the only way to duke it out, in my opinion. But go on.
That's what we got to do, you know. No, but and that's the thing is, when the actual performance happens, and it comes at a peak moment where, like, you know, Sentaro and the other girl, it's not really happening, and so they start playing some jazz right in the bar. And it's there's Americans that are there, so they're playing for the Americans basically. And one of them gets drunk, and he's like, you know, stop playing that black music, stop playing that black jazz, you know, like play something. He literally says, play something white, you know. And like Sentaro gets pissed, right? He just
rightfully so.
He gets super pissed. And you know, June, he's just kind of like he's like, you see him like prepared for any occasion. He like Sentaro storms off, you know, leaves the stage, all right, and then you just see June, he unbuttons one of his you know, vest shirts, and he's like, he tells Kaoru like, yo, can you play this? And Kaoru's like, sure. And they start playing a nice popular white jazz piece, but not for me, right? And he starts playing trumpet, and you're like, wow, that's good. And then he starts singing. And you know, the guy, it's like he's not doing the amazing like Freddie Mercury vocals. He's giving you that small, like, you know, very jazz, like very, very white jazz, kind of like popular little just a couple of notes, a nice small range, but like a lot of you know, a sexy performance is what I can say about that, you know, just crooning a little bit, you know. And that's the moment where like the girl who Sentaro's into is like, oh, this guy, oh my god, like, whoa, you know. But that's the moment when like I was like, holy crap, Brother June is the coolest guy ever. And then he loses it, right? Because he's into sketchy nonsense, and that goes really badly. But
I mean, that character was literally so perfectly set up to fail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he feels like he's like got like bulletproof like personality, bulletproof good looks, bulletproof everything. Like nothing gets through this guy. Like he's like set up for success. And then when you see the complete opposite occur, for me, like I literally remember sitting on your couch in your living room watching that, and I was like, "What? That's not Brother June. There's no way that's Brother June." Oh man, and Brother June's such a cool name too. I don't know.
Right.
Big fan of Brother June over here.
But what I like about that whole character and that whole part of the show is I do think it perfectly captures the show for me, and this might be a personal thing, but I do think it captures a lot of my feelings when in terms of like, you know, going to high school and just sort of like, you know, you're playing music, you're doing all of this, and there's a lot of people that you know at that period of your life, like for example, they're in CJEP or whatever, and you're like, holy crap, like these people are going to take over the world, right? You're like, they're going to be the most amazing things, do the greatest stuff and all that.
Right.
And then, you know, they don't, you know, maybe one or two wrong decisions, maybe just not using, I don't know, their talent or whatever, but just a lot of, for, you know, in real life, that happens, right? You become an adult, and sometimes things just don't really work out. And I kind of like that, because it's not just Brother June is perfect. It's no, Brother June is a human being, and things didn't really pan out too great, but in the end, like, you know, the girl, she still loved him and all that, and he was able to find peace and be happy, you know, in a way. So I'm happy for him, but I feel like it was, for anime especially, a very kind of mature thing, because usually in anime, like Brother June, he kind of falls down and he would have his sketchy phase, but then he'd do a comeback song and become king of the world. But that's not Kids on the Slope. Kids on the Slope, none of the main characters became big musicians, you know? One of them works at a church. One became a doctor. Brother June, I'm not sure, but he's living with his girlfriend.
Probably still riding that train.
Still riding that train, yeah. But that's it, right? So that's what I like about Kids on the Slope, is that it is an anime and all that, but it's it, as I told you before, like it feels like it's not busy trying to be an anime, like worried, because a lot of animes I feel are
It's
worried
well
about
developed.
like
The storylines to me, like it's like a roots from a tree. They go into different directions.
Mhm.
You know, there's multiple plots occurring. You know, life in high school, life with the band, romantic life, Brother
Yeah.
June, the bar, you know,
Yeah.
the record store. There's the
Mhm.
family issues. You know,
Oh
the
God.
emotional issues. Like guys, I haven't seen this anime in at least over 2 years to a year and a half
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
very
about that.
least, and I still remember all of these things from it
Yeah.
because of how great it is. It has a lasting impact for a reason.
Mhm.
I want to ask you
Yeah.
about Ritsuko because she's like a main character, and I definitely want to give her shine a spotlight on her a little bit. Like
Yeah.
I remember her being
Yeah.
very cheerful, very like kind-hearted, easy to like enjoy as a character.
Yeah.
But she does get involved in some drama with
Oh yeah.
Kaoru. But she's definitely like a great supporting role, and she's very involved in school activity. I remember.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen a lot of characters like her before, but she has her own touch to it personally. So, what were your
Yeah.
thoughts on her?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Excuse me. So yeah.
All good.
Basically, Ritsuko. The thing about Ritsuko that I particularly like is that I do think like she at first I was like, oh, she's the girl of the gang, right? So we're gonna have her be really kind and compassionate, all that, and she is those things, similar to Kaohu, where it's like, oh, here's our like relatable, dark haired glasses anime boy. But the thing is, none of these
Yeah.
characters actually, they're not just that. And the thing about Ritsuko is, what I like about her is she's kind of like, she thinks so much about like what she can do to kind of help Sentaro, because of how much she cares about him. That
Right.
like that she is a very selfless character. She doesn't do things for herself, for her own well-being. She really thinks about what the best thing is for other people in a way that's like, and again, it's not like, it's not like anime, like I'm gonna sacrifice myself to stop a meteor. It's like it's genuine. It's like she spends all of her time just kind of like caring for him and stuff, and it's selfless. And at first, at first you admire that. You're kind of like, wow, like she made this happen. She made the show happen. Like there's no Ritsuko, nothing would have happened at any point. The first episode would last like 8 minutes. They fight on the rooftop and it's done. Like we're over. Roll credits. But she literally makes.
Ah, the school rooftop. That's such a
Right.
classic location in
Yeah.
anime. But yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah, totally. But that's the thing is, the thing about her is she really carries it because she cares about the other characters, and she does everything there. But the show kind of transforms, as every other character, their plot kind of changes. For her, it's like she's very selfless, and so she's always thinking about what Sentaro wants and what he needs, and trying to help him. That when Kaoru comes in with his big romantic quest, she doesn't see it because she's not even thinking about that, right? She's like, what? Like dating? Like I don't have time for this. I'm like, she's literally not even there in her brain, right? Like, part of me wonders, like, I always wonder when I watch a show, like, I think like maybe they could have been together, but it's just she wasn't there, in her mind. She was just a standby. Like she was just kind of like a secondary character, just making sure everything goes nicely, goes well. And I enjoyed kind of watching that, but I also enjoyed her being more like assertive a bit as the show goes on, a bit more confident, sure, but just mostly like start to realize like, yeah, she does, she does want things, right? She does want things and need things, and kind of just kind of also become an actual human being. So I like Ritsuko a lot. I feel like she's a character that at the beginning lives on her interactions with the other characters, but when you get kind of later, she's, especially when Kaoru gets a little sketchy, she kind of becomes one of the most consistently relatable characters. Like I can always be understand where she's coming from. Where
Oh
sometimes
my God, yes.
yeah,
Very voice of reason.
well, yeah, voice of reason, but even when she's like frustrated, and because there's moments where she says and does things that are a bit like I'm like, oh, like that's gonna agitate whoever person, whatever. But I always know where she's coming from. Where sometimes Kagu will do something utterly like stupid and horrible, but I'm always kind of like, I always feel like the other characters, they let their emotions get the best of them. When it happens to her, it's a lot more understandable. Like I feel with her, it takes a bit more to sort of grate at her. So I always feel her well. And I think it's good to have a character like that in your shows, because sometimes, it can be a bit like a bit too crazy, between Sentaro
No,
and
for sure.
Gaohu, like, but
But like, I was gonna ask you as well. Between all those three characters, I feel like we delved in deep into them.
right.
What's your favorite moment that those characters share? Like whether it be together or a single like an individual moment. What was like a very standout moment to you in this anime?
I'm not sure. Like I I think a lot of the cliches kind of work. Like if you were to think, oh, standout moments in Kids on the Slope, I think the most obvious ones is like when they're laying on the floor, staring at the ceiling,
Yeah, I was
and you
thinking
hear
that.
them kind of practicing my favorite things.
My favorite things was
Um,
such a yeah
that's
yeah.
like a peak moment for the gang because it's the first time that the three are performing together, and it's the only time, right? And
Yes,
that
I believe so.
yeah, it is the only time because they like she's not like a musician per se, right? So she doesn't come and jam. So basically, like that's the one part where they have her sing my favorite things, right? And her voice is super adorable, and it actually does. It's a version of the song that doesn't exist. Like you can find the other versions of it, many versions of that song, but just her performance is so unique, and there's a bit of English in there, so the English word pronunciations are kind of funny, but it's so endearing and good in a way that makes it stand out. Like when I feel like listening, every times I listen to like the John Coltrane version or the original version, I kind of like usually I'm like it reminds me of the melody, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go listen to the Kids on the Slope one. And so that's one that I love a lot. And for those three characters, that's kind of like the classic moment for the three together. So that's a big moment for me. And then it's followed by the big drama moment of like she doesn't make it to the actual show. Like they practice and practice and practice and practice, and she doesn't actually make it. And then like Kaohu and Sentaro, they do like the amazing performance in the school and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but still, yeah,
How'd you feel
still,
about that? How'd you feel about that when she didn't make it to the show? Because
uh
that was a pretty pinpoint
heartbreaking.
like turning moment in the anime. That really things were kind of shattered at that point, but that really breaks it apart for me.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was so sad. Like when that whole part was really it was heartbreaking, but the performance, I just loved it. And what I love the most about it is how you just get, again, it's just the performance. Nobody's talking, no one's saying like, "Oh my God, like they're playing 500 notes a
Yeah,
minute. It's unbelievable." And it's like, wow, and you're watching them perform. And by the way, for those who don't know, the animation of the actual performances are rotoscoped. So
really.
yeah, so they filmed, for example, Sentaro's drum playing, they filmed an actual drummer, and the actual live performance of the pieces, and then they drew they drew the anime hands on top of it. So that's why it has a very fluid and very realistic, like you wonder, man, all the nuances in the performance of the recording is exactly captured in the animation. How did they do it? Well, it's because they actually rotoscoped it. So,
Wow,
so so that explains a lot. But yeah, so they're just performing
I
the
didn't know
hell
that.
out of their instruments and stuff.
Yeah,
um
yeah,
and what I like a lot about that is the whole school, they're like, this is the best thing we've ever seen. But they're not yelling, they're not freaking out. They're like completely silent. They're just watching it, and you just see a bunch of drab uniforms, just black and gray, just looking at it, just like, what the hell is this? Because nobody listens to jazz, they're all like, what the?
no.
And I love that. That's also one of my favorite moments. Like the performances, like that performance, the My Favorite Things, and the finale when they play Moaning in the church. Those are just like super super great moments, because it's one of those things that I feel the show builds a lot of drama. Like here's some relationship drama there, some relationship drama here, but then instead of giving you like a big dramatic scene like in a film or something where the characters duke it off verbally and start pouring their emotions, they just replace that with a music scene. Just like they'll play music, and somehow they'll work through it through music. It's too idealistic, but I like that. I really like kind of the spirit of it. It's very, it reminds me of high school, playing music as a cathartic experience a bit.
I
So
want
yeah.
to talk to you about specifically the music. I'm reading here off of Wiki. I want to get to your opinion on this.
Yeah.
So Yoko Kano was quoted saying that the work for the music here specifically, the work built on the jazz is part alone, and we just need to music for atmosphere. So basically, the big chunk of the music here is definitely in the performances, and then there's like
Yeah.
little, because honestly, if you think about it, and we're gonna get a bit audio technical here with this terminology.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
it's diegetic jazz performances most of the
Yeah.
time,
Absolutely. Completely. Yeah.
and then we have like little atmospheric music here and there for just
Mhm.
ambiances and setting the tone, like the Brother June train moment, or
Yeah.
when they go to the beach and it's like that awkward double date sort of thing.
Oh, God.
The music in there
Yeah.
is different. So how do you feel about the balance between those two universes? Because this anime's music can be really segmented in those two different
Yeah.
sections.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's the diegetic, non-diegetic music. Like, the non-diegetic music is, Yoko Kanno is an amazing composer, one of the best, if not the best. But the thing
My
is,
favorite film music composer of all times, and this is coming from a guy who literally did graduate studies in film music. You
uh,
can't beat Yoko Kano, in my opinion.
no,
Go on,
honestly, yeah. Well, for me as well, like one of my absolute favorites ever. But
Mhm.
and you know this,
Yes.
like the big Cowboy Bebop fan in me, I can watch Cowboy Bebop with my eyes closed and still cry. But anyways,
Oh yeah.
so the thing is, yeah, the non-diegetic music, it's not like it's not in crazy incredible pieces like a lot of her other stuff. But the thing that's interesting is, um, it's very seamless, and of course in film and TV and all that, sometimes that is the best approach. Like when it perfectly matches the scene in a way that you can feel it, but you don't really hear it, quote unquote. And that's how the non-diegetic music feels to me. I don't remember the melodies, but they move perfectly, and the actual diegetic music stands out just insanely, like because that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to kind of to explode, and she's right. Like the performances are where a lot of the music lies, and as I said earlier, right, it's in the spirit of jazz. Like most of the music in the show is pieces from classic pieces, but played in a different way. Because unlike classical music, which is what Kaoru used to play in the beginning, right? Because he learned piano, but he only played classic. Yeah,
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 that's the
yeah.
thing too. I want to mention real quick. Like
Yeah.
this guy didn't start out as a jazz musician. This guy was
Oh
kind of
no,
like, I play piano, and then I'm forgetting the drummer's name.
Sentaro.
Please,
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, Karu, you're gonna become a jazz musician now.
Well,
you know?
he's like, yo, dude, you suck. Like, cause Ritsuko was like, hey, Kaoru, he plays piano and you play drums. You guys should play together. And then, Centaur was like, ugh, like, yeah, you play piano, but do you play jazz? And Kaoru's like, oh, jazz, that dumb, simple music. Like, of course I can do that. And then Centaur's like, yeah, homie, like, you probably suck, because if you play classical, like, classical is for stiffs, and it's just so
Yeah.
funny. Like, and when he's trying to learn moaning, the super basic, like, dun, 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 like, it's so funny because Sentaro kind of like he plays it, but he plays it like classic, like very clean, and the rhythm has no swing to it. And Sentaro's like, what the hell, man? That's terrible.
What are you doing right now? Like I remember that
Yeah.
scene so vividly.
And I love
Oh
that,
man.
and that's the spirit of it, because like as I was saying, like that's the thing. Classical music, you're a lot of people, and I know a lot of people in musique à l'ancienne and classical music studies, and they're more about imitating and trying to be exactly like the score tells you, like exactly what the piece was originally,
It's
to a
not punk
fault.
rock.
Yeah, to a fault, and that's not super interesting to me personally in music.
No.
Like, and I don't want to throw shade to anyone, but that's why I had to choose. If I wanted to go conservatoire, or if I wanted to go do some weird sound nonsense, and this is what I chose. But anyways, so in the end, that's the thing, is in classic, it's about imitating the classics, right? In jazz, it's about reinterpreting. It's about changing it. It's about just performing it. Like, you know what the melody is because you've heard it, but then you add some rhythm to it, some swing to it, some performance, and you're feeding off the musicians of others, right? And that's what the show does. It takes a bunch of classic pieces that, if you're a jazz fan, you've probably heard a million times, but then it does their own versions that you can't find. You go on Spotify, you try to find versions similar to those, and you won't do it because that's what it's about, you know?
No, 100%. I love the soundtrack for this anime so much. Yoko
Yeah.
Kanno, like she just kills it every time. You put her in as the music composer, and I'm gonna very likely watch. I just really enjoy what she brought to the table for this anime for sure.
Yeah, and which reminds me, like, since you're a big fan, you should watch Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. All right.
Oh, that will occur. We will have
do
an episode on that, and I'm quite looking
and I'm
forward
there.
to it.
I'm there. I'm coming back.
I want to also ask you, like, maybe more theme related, because music is obviously a big theme in this anime.
Right.
I remember, like, and I don't know how much you remember about this, but there was a bit of a religious theme in this anime too. Like, these people, like, did they not go to the church regularly or something like that? I'm trying to, like, remember here.
Yeah,
I remember like Ritsuko saying something like that to that effect.
So Ritsuko and Sentaro specifically, they both go to church. Like, we see it in the show. They both go to church. Their families go to church, whatever. Obviously Sentaro ends up there, right? He ends up working there. They both go to church, but it's because it's the 60s. It's Japan. It's a very Catholic era for Japan, that specific period. So there's not a lot of religious themes, like, there's no, like, nothing like big, like, they're not imitating scripture. They're not doing, like, there's no Jesus figure or whatever. But although you know what, that's actually questionable. But still, a lot of it feels like it's not one of those shows that's like, being religious, like taking like, I don't know how to explain, but taking the stories and changing them. It's more like religion is a big part in the lives of those characters, as it would have been at the time.
Yeah,
and I know that it affects them in, like, what I kind of like about it is, Sentaro, for example, like, you would think, oh, he's a big delinquent, like, he'd probably be like, oh yeah, screw religion is for dumbos. But what I like about his character is he's like, he is, as I said earlier, he's the gentle giant, but man, like, he goes to church and he cares for it, and it's just, like, literally the most wholesome guy, right? Like, I'm not a religious guy. I have huge qualms there, but man, like, I personally, I've never, like, analyzed it with religious themes in mind, but you really do feel it in the characters. And even, like, I remember when he finds out about, like, them being to church and stuff, I remember Kaoru being a bit not weirded out by it, but he's not so religious, so you kind of feel he was kind of like, what am I getting into here? A bit like, who are these people? Like, is Ritsuko, like, you can kind of feel like he's thinking, is Ritsuko really like Ritsuko and Sentaro? Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like you can kind of see him being, like, a bit thrown off, at that particular moment, from what I remember, at least. But yeah, personally, like, I don't see a lot of religious themes, but the imagery is there, obviously, and there is a little bit in it, specifically at the end, right, when Sentaro comes in and they're playing in the church, and
church,
and you can kind of do some, like, rebirth themes and stuff like that, but like, I'm sure you can find a lot of that, and especially, like, again, the sheets, right? You get those really weird scenes where, like, they're taking off the sheets, right? Because that happens multiple times, where, like, Kaoru, he takes off the sheet while, like, Sentaro is sleeping, and you get this really, like, hot, like, emotional kind of slow-mo shots of, like, just kind of Sentaro turning around and sensually staring at Kaoru, right? You get a lot of stuff like that too, which is it might feel like I'm saying a lot of nothing, but it's because I've talked to some people, and I know that there's a lot of people who interpret kind of like a homosexual context in that. Like, if you decide to go the religious route, a lot of people have connected, for example, like that it's one of those stories where there's kind of a hidden homosexual context it's kind of working against the very Catholic era of Japan, so I know there's some of that in it, but I haven't done my analysis on that yet. I'm planning on doing it some point, but I personally haven't looked into it in that way. But I do know that that's a popular sort of way to
I think
dive
I saw a
into it.
blurb about that on the wiki. Very
Possibly.
quickly, I saw possibly, but I also wanted to talk about because we were talking about Brother June earlier and the
Yeah.
girl that Centauro had a crush on, and I'm thinking, isn't it Eureka?
Oh,
I believe
yeah.
Let's
Okay.
talk about her a little bit because
Right.
she definitely had her spotlight moments in the anime.
Yeah.
I personally really enjoyed her.
Mhm.
I feel like she was a bit how can you say, like, not clueless, or I don't remember her knowing if Centauro had a crush on her, but I feel like she must have had some idea.
Yeah.
But she definitely mixed things up between the guys in this anime for sure.
Yeah, because the thing is, I think she does take a liking to Centauro, but the thing is, being a teenager, he kind of takes it a bit too hardcore, like in the bar and stuff. Like, I feel she
Right.
doesn't really enjoy his overly intense moments, like when he gets really, really riled up. And I feel like that's really the moment, like the things that she doesn't really like not doesn't like, but doesn't love about Centauro, like those things come out during the bar scene. And then with Brother June, she sees what she really likes, that kind of cool, calm, collected
Right.
sort of style. So it's one of
And
those
who
things.
doesn't love Brother June?
That's
Sorry.
true. It's true.
I
But she was everyone watching the anime at that point, like, oh my, oh, just like, oh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Oh no. I was like, damn. Okay, yeah. So we're not gonna.
Maybe that's the homosexual theme. It's like every guy had to watch this, and like the impact of Brother June on the male audience of Kids on the Slope.
Right. Yeah, just me when he unbuttons the shirt, I was like, okay, we're going there. Okay, let's do this. But yeah, no. But seriously, yeah. The thing is, I also really I do enjoy her character, and just because I didn't remember her name, it's been 2 years as well, but since the last time I watched it. But the thing about her is that she is like, if you were to do the 5 characters, she's like the 5th character, or even the 4th character. Some people consider her more of a main character than June, because June disappears for a bit. But the thing about her is she comes into her own, like through the other characters, like through the way she interacts with June, and how like she ends up accepting him and wanting to help him and all that. Like, that's kind of those scenes are kind of where you find out what she's about, because she does not get a lot of alone scenes. Like other characters, all the others, they get a lot of scenes where they're alone, just kind of like, or they're like with their families, but she doesn't really get a lot of that. She's really like, you do feel like she's a character made to kind of like to boost the group dynamic, and I think she does work incredibly well as that, because it gives like the square romantic triangle, and then you add Brother June,
Definitely.
and it just falls apart. But I do like her, and I do remember enjoying like the awkward double dates and all that. And she's a very kind person as well, but in a very different way from Ritsuko. Like, she isn't like as selfless. Like she's someone who, like, she's she's kind of chasing her love a bit, in the show, and that's very
100%.
respectable as well.
Is there any other like very important things you want to bring up? Because we're almost hitting the hour mark here, so slowly start wrapping things up. Like, what are some like definite things you want to like bring up, and then we can get into final thoughts.
Oh man. I'm not sure, I'm not sure about.
Because I feel like we covered like the important moments, the important characters.
We covered like the characters. The characters, they're fine. I don't think there's any other characters we can talk about, unless like there's a lot of the other ones that are a bit like memes. Like the only guy who did end up becoming a musician is that one guy who was kind of like a glam rocker or something.
I remember that.
You
should do rock music. You guys should do rock music. Let's start a rock band.
Yeah. And then it turns out, he did it. He actually did it. Like in the final episode, they're watching the TV.
That's gonna happen one day. Dude,
I'm just gonna look up. It's gonna be like JaianMusic, the Pixar movie with your Kyo art, but in like in animated form, doing music. Yeah.
I was thinking more like something I boom opt, but sure. I mean, as long as I get in the credits, I don't care.
Right. No, I was saying the JaianMusic motion picture, man.
Coming out in 2023.
Okay, I mean that's all right, man.
No, no, I'm
You gotta
kidding. I'm
make it.
kidding.
It's been officially announced right here on Anime
No,
Podcasters.
shut up.
People
Like, just give
will
me your fun.
remember
Just give
this.
me what did you enjoy? What did you enjoy about Kids on the Slope, Morgan?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
did you
right,
enjoy
right.
about Kids on the Slope,
Okay.
Morgan?
Yeah, yes.
I'm kidding.
That's what this is about. Right. Okay. This wasn't just like 40, 50 minutes just so you can announce your own motion picture. No, definitely not.
Oh
My
man,
God.
but like,
Yeah, no,
in all
seriously, yeah.
seriousness, go ahead.
Yeah, like for me, I'm a huge Watanabe fan, and Kids on the Slope for me, like I enjoy it a lot. It's not like my number one Watanabe show. We know this, we are aware of this, but the thing about it is, what I enjoy about it is a lot of the other Watanabe shows. They all have incredibly big influence, not influence, but they take music into account in a ridiculously big way. Like even
Yes.
your favorite anime, Thank You No Terror, has incredible music and throughout. And Cowboy Bebop, like the name and just the name of the episodes and all of that. But what I like about Kids on the Slope is, you're getting Watanabe, but actually doing music. Like, no, this is about people playing music, doing some jazz, a little bit of drama, and another thing is for people who haven't watched it, it's a show that if you're used to watching a lot of anime and some of those music animes like Your Lie in April and this show it's a lot slower than that. And the first time I watched it, I liked it. I didn't love it. I was just kind of like, oh, that was nice. But I've watched it like 3-4 times, like every Watanabe show. And it's a show that the more that I kind of grow with it and I go back, I look forward to those performances, but also like I just kind of feel like it's so much more like human than your average anime and your average music anime that I think you should just give it a shot, but watch it as if it's just a show, just like if you were going on Amazon or Netflix and you were just like, I'm going to just watch a show about music, and you're probably going to love it that way. And that's kind of what I would like to sort of add regarding Kids on the Slope.
For sure. The irony of what you said though is that like we spoiled so much, and you're like, you should definitely watch it. Like if you got this far into the
Yeah, if you got
podcast,
this far, yeah, it's a stupid thing to
Dude,
say.
and
Yeah,
you didn't
that's
watch it,
true.
like I mean, thank you for the watch time. Number one, and number two,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah, why'd you do this? This was not great. But yeah, but hey, who knows? Maybe someone dropped in and now they're convinced and they're like, hey, I really want to see the ending that we've already mentioned, where they perform music in the church, and yeah, you already know what they all become when they grow up, and you
who
know
ends
that
up
they're
with
not going to
who?
be together. So there we go.
Yeah. Okay. I want to say this: Kids on the Slope was recommended to me. Like definitely, like when I moved to Montreal, and okay, I want to kind of tie it all together between like how I met
Yeah.
Morgan and everything.
Okay.
Morgan and I met
Oh,
at
God.
the very beginning
Yeah, yeah.
of the electroacoustic program, and we went on Mont Royal in Montreal, and then the teacher's like, okay, go around and say where you're from and fun fact about yourself, something like that. And then I hear Morgan say he's from Gatineau, which is my hometown since I've been in Canada. And then I say, I'm also from Gatineau. And then I'm wearing a Dragon Ball shirt. And then it turns out he's into anime. So it was like love at first sight in a sense. And I've brought up Morgan before on the podcast. He's made many recommendations to me. And I feel like Kids on the Slope was the first one that I really like binged with you and got recommended by you and really stuck with. And I'm very happy I did so. To me, this anime is a perfect representation of romance, friendship, music, hardships. There's amazing themes all melted into one pot, and it's short. It's 12 episodes. It's super bingeable and it's super enjoyable. So there's a reason why I gave it an 8 out of 10 on my anime list, because it's great. It's fantastic.
Same score.
Same score. For some reason, you and I have, we're eye to
we
eye
don't
on this
agree
one.
on almost anything else, but there's like three shows, movies that we have the same score, and
Yeah.
that's the one. That one and Attack on Titan. No, I'm kidding.
Let's not.
Yeah,
let's
we're not going to
Maybe
talk about
let's
that.
Say that one.
Yeah,
We'll say that one for
don't invite me on that unless I want to get attacked by the internet. But it's fine. Okay.
Attack by Titans.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
All right.
Yeah.
So
but yeah. Oh no! When I saw you with when I heard you were from Gatineau, I remember I turned around and then I just see the Capsule Corp shirt, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna see this guy again, aren't I? Like this is gonna be a thing for sure, for sure.
This is gonna be a recurring theme.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this isn't gonna be one of those things where I'm sure one day it's gonna come out. I like anime, and that'll be the end of it. And Jaian spots these things. He can smell the anime in the room. Like he's like, oh shit, oh, you like Dragon Ball? Okay, okay, yeah, we
And then
got
it
it.
only took me 4 years to get you on this podcast. But
That's
it's
true.
minor.
That's true.
Yeah, minor detail. All right, let's wrap things up.
All
You
right.
can you can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Google, any podcatcher. We are there. You can rate us on rate this podcast /anime podcasters, and you can send us a voicemail on speakpipe.com/anime podcasters. The artwork for the podcast is provided by GoProKyo. Go follow him on Twitter. Go send him a DM if you need animation, artwork for any of your projects. He's super affordable, works very quickly, and he gives quality art. So please go show him some love. We really appreciate him. This was a very different episode because usually I have Hotshot with me. I hope you're feeling better, Hotshot. We're definitely gonna have Morgan on again to talk about. I mean, it was announced on the Facebook page. So I'll just say it here. The next time it's gonna be Alita Battle Angel. I don't know if it's gonna be back to back or it's gonna be on another month, but it will occur this year definitely.
Super hyped.
And you can subscribe to me, JaianMusic.com, freelance audio services. Lunatic Rappers is coming out with new music very soon, so go check that out. JaianMusic.com, that's my website. That's going to be all the plugging for me. A big thank you to you, Morgan, for coming on here.
Thank you.
You did fantastic. You are a natural when it comes to the anime, and this is what I wanted to have you on. Go ahead. If there's anything you want to promote, anything you want to say before we log off, go ahead. The mic, the floor, the podcast is yours.
Yeah, well, for now, honestly, I don't have much to plug and promote because I'm kind of in between projects. But the thing is, once I'm done, I have a bunch of sound editing jobs, and once I'm done for those, I'll be working on a new series that I'll be writing and directing, and I'm super hyped for that. And it's gonna enter production soon. So next time I show up on the podcast, I will probably have a bunch of because I'm already preparing the social media layout and the pages and all that. So next time, but for now, I don't have much. You can kind of find me on Instagram, Morgan the Alien, but I post rarely, but I am there. But expect stuff very soon. So that's all.
Okay, I'll leave a link to his Instagram in the description. Go give him a follow, please.
All right, sounds good. It was a pleasure, man.
Oh, dude, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much for coming on. So for myself and Morgan, this has been another episode of... This is the part where you say the podcast name.
Yes. Anime Podcasters.
Bye, guys.
Oh.